Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show, where we make it our business to help you take dominion over your money and your life. And we do that every single week with episodes just like this. And we are thrilled to have you checking in with us, whether this is your first time or you are a regular OG member of the His and Her Money community. I just want to say welcome, and I'm so glad to have you here with us. There's a lot of other shows you could be tuned into, but the fact that you're rocking with us, we are grateful for that. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button, because we do this for you and we do it on a regular basis. And we don't want you to miss not one episode that we put out. So if you hit subscribe, you'll be sure to be notified every time a new edition of the His and Her Money Show drops. Hey, I'm pretty sure you're going to hear some nuggets today that you're going to want to be a good friend with and share. And when you do that, put it on your social media and tag us at His and Her Money and let us know that you've been tuning in and that you got something out of this show, and we'll show you some love right back. We're going to be talking about wealth today, ladies and gentlemen, because it's so righteous to get your money management under control. You definitely should do that. It's imperative that you get your debt out of your life. You should do that, but don't stop there. It is also just as important for you to go to the next level and build wealth for yourself and for your family. And we're going to be talking about that topic today. I have none other than the wealth twins, Nadia and Nicole, waiting in the wings to share their story and their advice with you and I, so we can be all about building that wealth. So let me get Nadia and Nicole on so we can find out what they have to share with us. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Nadia. Welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks for having us.
We are so glad to have you both here. Long time coming. We're excited for you all to be able to share your advice, because y'all have quite the story of your own, and you all have been on quite the journey yourselves, and now you're turning around and helping other people do the same thing. And we love when people do just that. But some people are being introduced to you all for the very first time right here and right now. So could you say hello to everybody, and then one by one, let them know what you guys are all about?
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Nadia.
And I'm Nicole.
And we're the Wealth Twins. We're twin millionaires who retired early. And we teach hardworking parents how to manage and invest their money so they can create more choices for themselves and their families now and in the future.
Yeah. We focus on choices because really choices are what are going to improve the quality of your life. It has done it for us, and we know it can do it for other people.
Super dope. So let's go back to the beginning, because y'all are the Wealth Twins today. But let's go back to the beginning of the story before we became twin millionaires. Where did this story begin? How did your money journey even start? Let's go back to dollar number one.
Dollar number one started in South Jamaica, Queens, New York. So if you're not familiar with it, it's where 50 Cent, Nicki Minaj, they all big up right now, South Jamaica, Queens. We were there before it was cool. But
I don't think it's cool now. I'm not sure.
But we grew up in a single mother household. We worked our way up through school, went through Columbia University, started working on Wall Street at Goldman Sachs. And then we eventually went into management consulting, and we eventually retired early. And Nicole can give you a little bit more information too.
Yeah, really, when it came to where we grew up, we did not grow up as millionaires. Like Nadia said, we were in public housing, and we used education to first get that opportunity as a way to make some money and get out the neighborhood where we were living. And then after that, being on Goldman Sachs, that allowed us to be around different people with different, access to money management skills, access to the way they grew up and how they thought about money. And just being around those people planted some seeds into what we can do for ourselves. And then while we were there at Goldman, and actually the time between graduating from Columbia and working at Goldman, there were two events that happened that really, made three important lessons for us in our life. Like the first was that we lost our mother the year before we graduated for Columbia. So we didn't really have that safety net as to what would happen if we didn't get a job after graduating from school, or where would we live after we graduated from school. So that was something that made us grow up very quickly. and understand that we needed to get our money straight. And then the next event would have been September 11th. We were on Wall Street at that time, and September 11th itself was a devastating day and one that we won't ever forget. But what happened afterwards really shaped us as well. You know, we saw people getting let go from the company, even though they had 30 years on the job. They got let go the very next day. And we saw two different sides to that. We saw people who wanted to be let go asking for retirement packages because they had their money straight. And we saw those that didn't understand what was going on. And I actually saw some people come back and pretend like nothing happened after they were let go. And that made me think, and I told Nadia, look, you can have two people making the same money, working at the same job, living totally different financial lives. And the third thing that we learned from that is that a job cannot be your only source of income. Our mother was working 7 days a week, working hard, and she really wasn't getting that far with it. And at Goldman, when you see people working 30 years and get let go, again, they didn't know what they were going to do. So we had to find a way to make sure that our jobs weren't our only source of income. And that's how I guess the idea of intentionality with our money came to fruition, and also which later on blossomed into what I say is the lessons we teach with Well Twins.
I think a pretty interesting story inside of you all's story is this, because you just mentioned that you all excelled in school, went to a prestigious university, then out of that prestigious university, you end up working for one of the biggest financial firms in the whole world. And yet, despite all that, you ain't know nothing about a 401k until a supervisor told you about it. So what does that
Exactly.
say to us and everyone listening? Because I think some people beat themselves up because of what they didn't know or didn't start investing soon enough. I mean, this is what you guys did. You trained for and started doing. And if it had not been for that, and you can tell that story, but how can we learn a lesson from that story to give ourselves some grace and also allow ourselves the space to be able to move forward from the place that we're currently at?
Well, well, just let me jump in quick, Nicole. So I'll give you two things you can learn from that. One, you can have a job, but if you don't learn everything within that job and how it can help you and how you can take full advantage of that job, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And two, even though we had an awareness that they do provide a 401k, we weren't taking advantage of it. And that's something I think a lot of people don't they do now, because you most of the jobs do provide a 401k. But if you're not taking the time out to intentionally say, look, I need to start investing for my future, time is going to pass you by and you're losing the biggest thing that can help you out later on in your life.
I would also say mentors. That's one thing. You can always have a mentor and always be willing to learn something that you don't know if you're seeking out the information. Because I had that boss that took me aside and said, I'm going to mentor you. We weren't even talking about money that day. But he said, Nicole, maybe something in him that day told him, Nicole doesn't know much about money or so in terms of managing it. But when he took me aside and showed me, if you just put this little bit of money aside every month or so, it can grow into something large, long term, and it doesn't have to be risky. I think that's something anybody can learn from. It does not have to be risky. It should be consistent, and you should also make sure that you're doing it, period. Just start it and be consistent, and it will grow.
So, is it my correct understanding that the journey to the millionaire status started with this 401k? And for those who are listening who need to get started, what's your advice on figuring out how to navigate getting started with their 401k?
I would say the journey didn't just start with the 401k. That started the investing journey. But one of the things that we did right away, and I think anybody can start right away, is we started saving our money more. Because you can't invest what you don't have. And you can't feel that you can put that money in your 401k if you feel that you need every bit of that paycheck going towards your bills. So I think the first thing we did was find a way to not let lifestyle creep happen, and also find ways to save as much as that paycheck as we could. So we weren't doing flashy things. We were just stacking that money and also investing at the same time. So Nadia can tell you about how we came up with in terms of saving money.
No, I think if someone wanted to get started now when it comes to investing in their 401k, I say just start putting a couple of $100 from your paycheck. Like what you're putting into your 401k is not necessarily what you're going to see as a difference in your paycheck every other week, you know? So start off small. The key thing is to make sure you start early rather than later, but eventually start upping up the percentage of the money that you're taking out of your paycheck and putting in your 401k. If you can make it up to your company match, if your company does have a match, make sure you do that. I'm not trying to push you too far because I don't want you to get to the point where you say, look, this is too much. I'm going to start pulling money out. I want you to do it on a consistent basis so there's something that you can sustain. And then once you see that money start growing, that's going to give you more motivation to start putting more money into your investments and then probably branching out into other investments.
When did you all develop this long term view? Because you said even before you started investing, you knew enough to start saving and you knew enough to not spend everything that you earn. But that's not the case for a lot of people. I know when I first got some money, I was balling all the way to debt. Tens and thousands of dollars worth of debt. Because listen, it was the first time I had some money and I was going to spend it. So where did y'all get this mindset from?
I say really that comes from our mother. She did two things that I'm not sure she really meant to do it, but she was teaching us some lessons. One, she always told us your manners will take you further than your money. So she said, look, it's better for you to be nice rather than think you're going to get everything just because you make some money. So we mainly focused on our manners more than our money. And then two, as twins, it was twice as expensive to raise us than it would be a single child. And we always wanted something new, something cool. But my mother was like, listen, I'm going to dress you a certain way. I'm going to make sure your clothes are clean. I'm going to make sure you are nice. Other than that, I can't promise you, just because the paycheck wasn't going further, you're not going to be able to get name brands all the time. You're not going to be able to floss all the time. And I think because, and she also dressed us alike. So right there, dressing us alike, you stand out, but you also get made fun of. So she gave us a thick skin and made us able to take, we didn't have to keep up with the Joneses, and if we even got laughed at, we were able to take it. So with that, we didn't feel the pressure that once we got some money, we need to go out and start balling.
Yeah, and when you don't have the money, you have time to dream, right? You have time to dream long term about what you really want to pursue. So when that money comes in, you're going to be more cautious on how you're going to use it. So we were never frivolous with money. We were more frugal people. So it's like, okay, if the money's not here, what I can do is plan. And when that money comes in, I can use that money to help push my plans to fruition.
And you know what? When talking about money and what we saw right away, there was two things that we saw because we grew up on one side of town, and then when we got into the working world, we saw another side. When we were growing up, money was always an issue. It was a source of fights, source of crime, things like that. But when you see people sitting down next to you, where money is a source of pride, source of opportunity, you start understanding how they're not dressing so much and focusing their money on that. They were checking their house prices. They were checking their investments. And he said, oh, this guy is wearing I can't tell you how many people I worked with were giving their kids hand-me-downs because they said that's not where the money's going to be. They were putting it away towards assets. And that gave us another way to see things too.
So what's your advice there? Because again, you're working at a prestigious place and you would think that, everybody's driving Benzes and Bentleys and Beamers, but you're saying, you saw people having the mindset of collecting assets, not liabilities. How can we adapt that in our own lives?
I mean, for me, it would say be intentional where you're going to put your money. Put your money into income producing assets, not liabilities. And all that glitter is not gold. It's very easy to get yourself into debt with things that you might consider an asset, maybe like a car or so. But those things are not what's going to take you in the long run. And I saw that I was working with millionaires. Nadia was working with millionaires. And it was some of the most plain Jane people when it came to dressing in their cars that you wouldn't believe. And these guys couldn't rock all those nice things.
Exactly. But if you take a step back, the ones who were being scared about letting go, those were the ones that were driving around in the nicer cars, had the bigger houses and had the kids in private school. So it's more about balancing it out. What do you want more in your life? Do you want to be stressed out about money or do you want your money to work for you?
So talk to us about how you all then became asset collectors based upon what you all were seeing and what you all were learning. What type of assets did you all begin to collect?
Well, in addition to starting to invest in a 401k, I bought a building for the same price I could have bought a single family home, right? So that allowed me to start house hacking, started making passive income, and that helped me build up my net worth and started adding to my security deposit so that if I wanted to start leaving, I had more of a safety net to do that. So I was very intentional about I'm planning my way out, and this is the way I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it differently. I'm not spending my money on a single family home because that requires it to come from me only, and that requires me to make sure I maintain a job. So I went the other route, buying a building, have a couple of apartments. They pay me, they pay the mortgage, and it gives me a little more freedom to do and give more choices in my life.
At one point, Nadia was living rent free because she house hacked so well. And when I saw Nadia doing that, I wasn't able to buy a building at the time, but I did buy a multifamily. And then I focused more on buying stocks and investments that gave me dividends. And I'm not sure of how many people that listen are understanding what dividends are. Basically, dividends is just paychecks that companies give you just for holding their stock. So I did not have to be that risky to do it. I just focused on income producing. And it is passive income. Dividends are passive income, and it's the only way to make it in the stock market. So just focusing on that allowed me to buy something that had the potential of growing in terms of the price of the stock going up, but provide me with income just for holding it. So those two in combination, along with, being good savers and not letting lifestyle creep happen, it all landed onto this.
Allowed us to retire early.
So let's unpack these two strategies one by one. So Nadia, you hit us with a term called house hacking. Some people may not be familiar with that term, and they're like, "That sounds interesting," because you said you bought a building for the same amount of money that you could have paid for a single family home. So most people, the trajectory is go to a good school, get a good job, start your family, and get your house, your starter home or whatever. And you took a different approach. You said, I'm not going to go get a single family to start. I'm going to get a building. So, like, how many, when you say building, like how many units and things of that nature, and then kind of unpack for people that term house hacking.
Well, the building I bought has 4 units, right? So what I did was rent out 3 of the units, lived in one, and then I allowed those units to pay me passive income at the same time taking care of the mortgage. Now, when you talk about house hacking, I don't want people to think it's so far out of reach for them. You can house hack if you don't own the property. If you can afford to get a 2 bedroom apartment, if you only need 1 bedroom, do that. A lot of times a 2 bedroom might be cheaper than getting a 1 bedroom, especially in New York City, You have a roommate help you pay the rent. And if you can get that roommate to pay more of their portion of the rent than you do, you're already house hacking. Then you use that money that you're saving and roll that into something else. Maybe you can roll that into actually buying a place of your own and then moving up and scaling your house hacking on that level. It doesn't have to be anything big. You can have a driveway or you can have like garages like I do. I rent out the garages on a monthly basis. That adds to my income. I don't drive 3 cars, I have one. Okay. That's an extra thing. These are small little things that are within your control that if you don't have the means to buy a property, think be creative and you can house hack.
So basically, I'm not sure if most people realize the biggest expense you usually have is where you live. So if you can find a way to lower that expense, you can take the extra money that you have and funnel it into something else.
So now on the money side, the requirements are the same as far as percentage of a down payment, terms of the loan, and things of that nature. And were you all just went at it alone, or did you have like a property manager? Or you knocking on doors, getting rent checks? Like, how did it work?
I'm knocking on doors. I knock on doors and get rent checks because I don't want to split a percentage of my to some management company. But I keep it small. And the thing is, when you keep it under 4 families, like 4 units, you don't fall into the commercial property, right? So you're under a residential. So you fall into the same loan terms as you would if you were buying a single family home. So anything that's 1 to 4 families is considered from the bank point of view a regular loan, right? It's just a matter of how much the mortgage would be. So the way same percentage down, same benefits. You just got to be comfortable of not having an entire house to yourself. But I live in New York City. I'm comfortable having an apartment. If you're comfortable having an apartment, why not have the apartment paid for by other people? It's a lot simpler than what people think. A lot of times you can buy a multifamily house or multifamily building a lot cheaper than you can buy a single family house.
And Nicole, you followed the same blueprint when it came time to get your building?
Yes, we bought one in Long Island, so we have one tenant instead of three, but still, same thing applies. We buy a house where you can afford on one income, rent out part of the house, have that rent help pay the mortgage down.
So you got multiple things going on. You said at one point, Nadia, you were able to just be completely rent free because everybody else rent was taking care of everything, and so that frees up cash out of your paycheck that would have gone to somebody else as the landlord or to a mortgage company. And so now that gave you all the space to be able to use your income to go out and get some more assets to collect. Is that how you all played it?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it also allowed me to make the choice to retire early because my husband and I, we live on lower expenses than we bring in, right? So it gave me the freedom to say, look, I want to stay home with my children, retire early, and we have enough income coming in that replaces my income. We can do this. So it allows you to get more choices.
Now there is some risk when it comes to, tenants. There's risk, but you also do your due diligence when it comes to who you let into your building, who you let as your tenant. And that's with any place. As long as you have good tenants that are willing to pay on time, it's a pretty good deal.
So can y'all give us some advice on how you all go about screening tenants and what signs or what are you looking for that makes you think that, hey, this might be a good tenant? What are some ones with red flags? Be like, no, no.
I don't want anybody coming at me and be like, look, Nadia the landlord, she's foul. But I live in New York City, right? So it's not the same as it is in other states. Credit score plays a big role in New York City, right? So I will pull your credit report and I do background checks on people. But I'm not only looking at your score, I'm also looking at the factors that make up your score. So I've cut people a break if you're not 700 or above. I cut it because I'll look at what the story is being told through that credit report. If I know that you have a lot of student loans and that's what's killing your score, I'll give you a shot because at the end of the day, I want to be able to have good people living with me. And I also want to be able to provide housing because so many people feel like housing is just so out of control right now. I'm not trying to be greedy. I just want to provide a space. You and I both win. You live here, I get paid, you have a safe place to live. So I'm more willing to work with people. And I think when you're dealing with a smaller landlord, you have that flexibility. But being a smaller landlord, you can get in trouble if you do get a bad tenant. So you have to do your due diligence when you're dealing with screening people. So a red flag would be maybe you say you're living by yourself, but I see too many people coming in and viewing an apartment with you, or you're like what you're telling me is not adding up with the papers I see coming in. A new thing that people are doing, they're falsifying their bank records. So you have to like you'll see spelling mistakes, you'll see like the numbers don't add up, like these dates don't match up. It's crazy. So you got to be real, like you got to be real careful. So don't take anything at face value. Do due diligence. And I will warn people, if you put something on Facebook, I will look for you and see what you type in online. You put it out there, I'm gonna find it. It's my house.
It's true. I think another red flag is I actually don't like to rent to people who don't have a history of showing that they can pay rent. I'm not a landlord that asks for cash. I won't. It doesn't help me out. It doesn't help you out. I want some type of record. And you can have that even if you're living at home still. Help pay the rent or the mortgage at home and pay it through Venmo, pay it through a check, pay it through something that shows that you have a record of paying rent and paying it on time. If I don't see that, I'm not willing to really take that risk on you. It's just not worth it.
So are you all putting these types of things, like how do you make a applicant aware of what they need to provide? Like you talked about the history of rent, right? Because something like that doesn't show up on a credit report. So they would need to know, like, I need to bring like a history of rent and stuff like that.
Oh, they have to give a year's worth of statements. I go through a broker. I have my broker say, look, these are the required documents for this apartment. Please give this. lately people have been writing me letters too, which is a good thing. If you're looking to rent from a smaller landlord, if you can write a personal letter, that pushes your case up for above other people, because sometimes you might be even with someone else who's looking at the apartment. And to smaller landlords like me, the money doesn't matter. Like if people are going to pay the same amount, I'd rather have somebody I can get along with that's going for that apartment. So if you write a personal letter, that can go a long way. But I go through a broker because I don't like face to face until a certain point.
Legal and General America is the leader in low cost term life insurance.
For nearly 70 years, Legal and General America has been providing financial protection to over 1.3 million families and businesses.
LGA makes understanding and applying for life insurance easy.
You can get a free quote by simply going to hisandhermoney.com/LGA.
And so when you all were pursuing finding your building, is it a traditional real estate agent, or does it have to be the type of agent that specializes in multifamilies? Like, how did you all go about finding your building?
I would tell you, I use a real estate agent, but I also got on my bike and I would be going around, riding around different neighborhoods, scoping out different things. Because a lot of times, by the time your broker gets it, a lot of people have already seen that property, or it's already like it's a lot of competition. So if you have the ability to go and really scope out neighborhoods, look where you want to live, if it hits your requirements, and you can get on that first, that's best. So you shouldn't just sit back and wait for a real estate agent. You got to put your footwork into if you really want a good deal.
And also realize you're not going to get the first property you
yeah.
want. So you got to be patient. And then the longer the process, the actually more clear you get on what you want and what you're looking for. But we did do traditional real estate.
Yeah. And I would suggest anyone who's looking for a house, whether it be a single family house or multifamily, I think the earlier you start your house looking journey, the better, because you'll get an idea of what you want and what you don't want. Because you might go in the first part of the process thinking this is what I want. And after seeing what's really out in the market, you're going to change what you really want in a place and what you're willing to accept and what you're willing not to accept. So the earlier you get out there, the better for you.
Or were either of these situations where you had to do a bunch of rehab to get in?
I did a lot of rehab. I probably did about 600,000-700,000 rehab. That also knocks a lot of people out because people ain't gonna want to do that work.
$600,000 or $700,000 worth of rehab. Okay. Um, okay. What made you want to pursue something that needed $600,000 to $700,000 of rehab? And like, how did you go about that?
Because I knew the area was going to blow up.
Okay, pause.
I
Wait, wait,
knew
wait, 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 wait. How? How did you know that? What were the signs, Nadia?
I know where I live. I know my market, right? So you have to be, if you are very in touch where you live and you see certain signs, like I know New York City, if you live near the train station, any kind of mass transit, you're golden. If there's a park in the neighborhood, you're golden. If there's some restaurants and you see like the neighborhood is like it has a certain vibe and you can bike to different things, it's desirable. Even if people don't see it at that point, you have to be able to see that diamond in the rough. And you have to be able to be like, I'm going to go after it and know there's a lot of work, but that work will pay off, you know? So when I looked at it, I said, if I wanted it fully renovated, this is going to cost me $1 million more than what I was going to pay for it. But if I buy it now, I have the ability to dictate how this is going to be done. I can tell you if the renovations were done properly, because even if you buy something renovated, you don't know if it was a flip that was done properly, and you're going to have to put in work after you paid all that money for it. So I'd rather buy something that hasn't been renovated, so I know what went into it, what materials went to it, how it was done, and if everything was done properly. So I'm willing to do that work up front, and it gives me less competition when I'm
So
going for
was
that
it
property.
savings, hard money? Like, what? How did you go about it? Because if somebody got a
I
quote from a GC that said, "Yeah, it's gonna be about
Well, you don't get
six
that quote.
hundred
You don't
thousand,"
get that
like
quote
some
from the
people would
GC.
run.
No, you don't get that quote
Okay,
from that GC. Okay, what you get from the GC is probably going to be a
okay.
third of that. And you're like, oh, that's good. But then, yeah, that renovation caused me to work a little longer than I wanted. But I did have a lot of savings. I was like, I'm going to be intentional. I want to buy something that I can call my own. So I put away 75% of my paycheck to pay for this. And I'm willing to put money away for it. It pays off. A lot of people. When I graduated from school, I told my friend I'm going to buy this BMW. A couple of years later, he's like, "No, why don't you buy that BMW?" I'm like, first, because I had to buy this house. Second, did you see how much it cost to change the brakes on that? I'm not doing that. I'd rather buy this property. It changes your mindset, and it works out longer for me. That car would have been probably back at the dealership by now, but my house continues to grow in value.
That's what's up. Nicole, you had to pull out the hammer and screwdriver?
I did,
No,
but
she
I
saw what I
also went
was
for something that was a little bit more, walk-in ready or
moving
live-in.
ready.
I saw what Nadia was dealing with, and I said, no, no, no. One thing, I did not go to Brooklyn because it might be a lot of diamonds in the rough out there, but you gotta. Nadia is actually pretty good, not showing her gray hair, so she did a good job with that. But I took that experience and I said, let me take off something smaller and see what we can do. And you don't have to do all the renovations at once. That's not what we do. And I actually like to pay for my renovations in cash. So we save up, we pay it off. And so we do things one at a time and we pick and choose what's going to be the thing that we want to do that month. So, I see my other neighbors, they were like, oh, total renovation. I was like, ooh, yeah, I would love that. But no, sorry, this is what's going to get done this year. This is going to get done next year, hopefully. We had a plan like that.
Makes sense. All right.
I will say most of that renovation I did was in cash because I don't want to have to owe so much on it. But part of it was not, but most of it was in cash.
All right. And so, have you all gone further, even beyond those first buildings, or you all start collecting other types of assets along the way?
When it comes to real estate, for us, I know a lot of people love to talk about their portfolio real estate. Yeah, Nadia and I have 5 kids between us, and having just the tenants we have is enough for us to say, I don't think I want to do much more. So we don't try to do all the things. We try to do the right things in the right order and try to maximize that. You see? So we said one building is enough. That's all you need right now. Maybe later on, we'll get something. One house is enough. But when it comes to investing, that's easier. You don't have so many, unknowns that you can't control. You have unknowns, but there's less risk, certain types of risk. So it's easier to buy investments in terms of stock market and get those dividends.
It fits the lifestyle we have now.
All right. So let's go there because that was the next thing that you all mentioned. You mentioned the term dividend investing. So some people, again, a term they may not have heard before. What's that, and how does somebody get started with that?
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to stock market investing, no matter what you buy, there's only 2 ways to make money. Either the price of what you paid for that asset goes up and you make money by selling it, or you hold on to it and you get dividends, which is income or payments that the company gives you just for holding it. Now, a lot of people love to hear the Cinderella stories. I bought Amazon. I bought, Google. I bought Tesla. These companies, unless you sell them, are not giving you money. Okay, so you have to get in at a certain point, then sell it to make the money. Now, if I tell you Target, Costco, hopefully these things, they're staple names, they go up in value. They might not go up as fast as Tesla, but what they do have is dividends. They will pay you just for holding it. So, like I said before, dividends are the only way to make passive income in the stock market. They're on stocks and ETFs and index funds that are more stable or in a different life cycle than a growth stock or growth company, and it can provide you with income without being as risky as some other things. And it can also still go up in terms of price.
So, how do you all approach researching the companies that offer the dividends versus ones that don't? And then, are you all targeting these companies with individual buys or inside of index or ETFs? What's you all's approach from research to execution?
So, again, we don't have all the time in the world to sit down and research every stock. So, the way we find to work for us and for our goals, which is long-term stability, we look at index funds and ETFs. So then from there, we look at maybe if it's an international or if it's, a US. We base that. Okay. We look at small cap, mid cap, large cap, and we make it as simple as possible and say, how can we diversify and do asset allocation in a way? And if I'm using terms, let me break it down for you. Let's do an example. Asset allocation, diversification. Let's do that first. You have a closet full of clothes. You have some hats, some t-shirts, some pants, some sneakers. Your wardrobe is diversified. Now, how many hats you have versus how many shirts you have versus how many pants, that's your asset allocation. These two things are more important than actual stocks that you buy. So we're focusing more on those things, but we're doing it through index funds and ETFs.
Now, Nicole might make it sound simple, but she has a master's in financial instruments for NYU. And
yeah, I forgot to mention that I have my MBA from NYU. So, but I'm also able to take these complex terms because, grew up one side of the street, went to work on another side of the street. We have children. My job is to learn what I can and then break it down into simple terms so that anybody can understand it.
Yeah, we want to lower the barrier of intimidation when it comes to investing, because a lot of people think in order to get a lot of money from dividends, you have to put a lot of money into the stock market and then you'll get these big paychecks. But there's an in between also. So if you can put money into the stock market and get paid dividends, that those dividend payments might be enough for you to be able to pay down your credit card bill. It might be enough for you to send your kids to dancing school or pay for some special vacation.
Pay for that leaky
Yep.
roof, because there's going to be a time when you can't work. But if you have those dividend checks coming, $1,000 a month could go a long way for things that when you can't work, it could take care of those things. So yes, if you invest a lot of money and you're intentional on dividends, yes, it will be something where you can retire on and also just have all that income coming in. But any type of investment in dividends can help you out.
So when it comes to finding the dividend you mentioned companies like Target and I forget, Costco. And so if they're inside of an index fund, they may be, well, let me ask, is this index fund full of companies that offer dividends, or is it a mixed bag where some of the companies inside this index fund have it and some don't? And then how do you get these dividends sent to you? You talking about, I like the way that extra 1,000 sound. That's what everybody in the audience is saying, but how do you get it?
I know. Okay, so two things. One, when it comes to index funds, yes, there's two types. You can have an index fund that focuses only on companies that give dividends. So you have these companies called dividend aristocrats. These are companies that have been paying and increasing their dividend every year for at least the last 25 years. And there are index funds and ETFs specifically only with those companies. Okay. I want to say one is Noble is one. Okay. Then you have index fund that can pick up all different types of companies, say the S&P 500 companies. Some of those are growth stocks, like I believe Google or Amazon is in the S&P 500, but you also have Costco and Target in there. If you get SPY, you will get dividend companies and companies that do not pay a dividend into one index fund. Now, when it comes to how do you get the checks, yeah, you can either do two things. You can, one, request that you get the checks and you'll see that in your brokerage account, or when you book the trade, or you can reinvest those dividends to buy more of the company. So you're delaying those checks, but on top of that, you're actually growing your investment, which will lead to more dividends. So that's the compounding effect when it comes to dividends too. You can use that dividend check to buy more money, buy more assets of that company or that index fund. And then the more of that asset you have, the more dividends you get paid.
Super dope. So I understand that you all tapped into the real estate, tapped into the stock market, but then I believe you all also tapped into entrepreneurship as a driver of economic advancement. So talk to us about why you all began to pursue, because y'all, for a lot of people, y'all was had some elite jobs, like jobs that people quote unquote dream. I work for Goldman Sachs, but you all pursued something else of your own. Talk to us about that journey and why you all felt at the point that you all transition was the time to make it happen.
You want me to be honest? I'll be honest.
Please.
Well,
Please.
you you only have one life to live, and like Nicole said, we had two major events that changed our perspective. And what you learn is like a company is not going to care more about you, especially, and won't care about you more than they care about that company. So if you know that your time is limited, I said, you know what? I want to prove something to myself and I want to be appreciated for the work that I do. When you're in a big company like that, it's hard for you to shine as much as you should or be appreciated as much as you should. So I said, you know what? The best way for me to do this is to step out, see what I really can do on my own, and be an entrepreneur. And that way you can really take control of your life and where you want to go. And if you become an entrepreneur, you're going to see right away if you're doing something wrong, you do something right. But at the end of the day, it's what you're doing is what makes a difference. So I started off by opening up a cafe in the building I bought. You know, I lowered the risk. I opened a cafe. I wanted to see a cafe in the area because at that time I had a small child and it was nowhere for me to sit and eat with her. So I said, you know what? There's other families who are going through the same thing that I'm going through. So I wanted to provide healthy options to eat in the area. I wanted somewhere to sit. And this was a way that I can pursue my entrepreneurial desires. So I did that with in the building I bought.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot to get into Goldman. It is not an easy company to get into, and the other companies we went to afterwards were not easy companies. We were fortunate enough to be there. But on the flip side of that, you start understanding you really are trading your time for your job. And when our mother passed away working 7 days a week and seeing people get laid off, we knew we could not stay somewhere for 30 years. It just wasn't going to happen. And I believe we've always had something in us where we wanted to share information and make an impact. And I don't think in those companies we were making an impact to maybe their bottom line, but we weren't making as much of an impact as we wanted, or we felt that there was something more we can give. And I believe Nadia and I feel we're competent people, we're capable people, and we wanted to see if we can do it ourselves. Now, the way we did it, and if anybody else is thinking about doing it, is through a leave of absence. The first time I did it, I did a little rush. I just had some money saved that I said I'm out. But the second time, when I grew up and I decided to be more intentional, I said, let's take a leave of absence because it is hard to leave that check. It is hard. But if you have aspiration and you feel you can make an impact, you can take some time off, decide if this is the move you want to make, get used to that new way of living, get used to trying to form a business and seeing if it's for you. And you can always go back to work. That's the way I see it. You can always go back to work.
And I think a lot of people don't take into account when you're a woman, especially in these fields, and some fathers too, you have to make the choice if you're going to keep continuing on the same career path or you're going to have a family. Because I saw what was happening to the more senior women in those companies that I worked at. And I said, you know what? I want to raise my children differently. I don't want to be here working 80 hours a week and then not being able to see my children when I choose to see my children. So that was another thing that prompted me to become
And
an
she probably
entrepreneur.
didn't want her kids to call her Nadia. Hi, Nadia.
Yeah,
You home today?
exactly.
So you know what? As we get ready to close this, I know there's some people who have disqualified themselves from being able to achieve the things that you all have achieved. They're like, listen, I didn't go to Columbia. I definitely didn't graduate from NIU. I definitely couldn't cash flow over $600,000 rehab. So of course they were able to do it. Their situation, their cards are a little different. So they're wondering, is this even possible for them? What words of encouragement would you give to that person if you had a chance to talk to them?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the first thing I would say is, look, even though we were at those places, we told you, we saw two people working the same job, making the same money, not living the same. Okay, so it's not about what you make, it's about what you save. And intentionality and choosing what you do with your money can make all the difference in the world. And it can start changing your life immediately. Now, tell it, I know your story, you can tell. 5 years paying off that house. Once you, it's not about how much it is, it's where you want to direct that focus, where you want to direct that effort. You're going to see things change. You just have to believe you can do it, have a goal, and then if you get the right information and listen to the right people, and all of us have some access to the internet now. That access to the internet is the easiest way to find out what you need to do, along with intentions to change your life. Don't worry about the paycheck. Worry about your discipline.
And if you wanted to get started in investing, but you're still scared and you're on the fence about it, you can start small with like stock slices or fractional shares. You can buy companies that pay dividends so you can see what that's coming in. You're like, oh, well, if I buy this little small thing and I have some skin in the game, but I'm also getting paid, that can serve as a motivator for you to continue going on. It's not how much money you're putting in, it's how long you're staying in the market and allowing that money to grow. You can put in $100 a month. I've turned $100 a month into 35,000, just letting it sit there and picking the companies I want. Think about it. It's not about how much you're putting in. It's how do I have my assets allocated and how long I have my money sitting in there. And that's how you really win.
And this is why we're here. If we didn't believe it was possible for other people to do it, we wouldn't be talking about it. We're here to tell you it is possible. It can be done. We can show you how to do it. And, just spreading the message. You got to see it to believe it.
Good stuff. So let everybody know how to keep up with you guys so that they can continue to learn and grow and build wealth.
Well, you can find us at wealthtwins.com. We're also on all social media except for TikTok right now. But, you can find us on Instagram, YouTube. We have a lot of free information. We have courses for anybody that's interested. But definitely check out wealthtwins.com. You'll find everything you need there. You can get in touch with us there. And we will love to see you.
Nicole and Nadia, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and share your story and your wisdom with our audience today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having us.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show is in the books. We hope that you guys were inspired and encouraged to go on a wealth building journey of your own. What Nicole and Nadia did was fantastic. And they came on to share their story so that you can start creating a story of your own. You do have what it takes. It starts with first believing and then comes the execution. So we need you to start doing both. Remember, you can find insight and education and inspiration just like this over at our website, hisandhermoney.com. That's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Until next time, peace.